Hold on, I got to reapply the picture here. Something happened to it, so hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. That was weird. Okay. Okay. Add. Compassion. Okay. That's bizarre. Should be here. It just all of a sudden it just disappeared. Hold on here. It's like the Compassion Club logo just disappeared. I don't know what happened. It was up on the.
Where'd it go?
Yeah, it's like. All right, hold on. Just give me a second. See if I can find where it went to. I mean, it was on there. I mean, you saw that. You know, just boop. It's like. It's a gremlin, man. Let's see. Okay. Did I take it off here? I copy and pasted it. I didn't take it. Oh. Wow, that's weird. I have to find where it's at. Have me grab it off your website, I guess. That's weird, man. That is so weird. It just disappeared. Okay. See if I can find your logo there. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Okay. Save image as. Damn. Oh boy, this is ridiculous. I just boom. I got the one right on your off here, you know, site. So save. That's just so weird. Just disappeared. The case of the missing logo. Okay. Okay. All right, ready to roll?
Ready.
Well, hold on here. So let's stop it again.
Okay. Hey, welcome. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show. Thanks for joining me today. I'm your host, Jeremy, coming to you live from allpointstv.com. Glad to be back in the studio here. Got John making it happen. John, how you doing over there?
Yeah, I don't make it happen. I just all of a sudden that club, the logo just went by. I mean, it was boom, it was gone.
Technical difficulties, but we're getting those things wrapped up as the show begins here this morning or this afternoon. It is a beautiful day. It's September 20th. We're getting down here to the last days of summer. I hope everybody's getting out there and enjoying it while it lasts. It will be over soon. I know these 70-degree days are few and far between, and it was a little balmy today, but man, you can't complain, you know. I had a post I saw the other day. Somebody said something about an Indian summer. It's not Indian summer if it's still technically summer, okay? And it is still technically summer today. Got one more day after this, so let's just enjoy it, okay? All right, I want to talk about some stuff here. We're going to talk about medical marijuana. Going to be talking about what's going down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. Let you guys know what's been happening around the state with medical marijuana and around the country as well. Let's get rolling. We got lots of stuff to cover, and we'll get through it. First thing I want to mention that we have coming up here at the G3C is our soup kitchen. That's going to be on the 29th. It is a Friday. It's a week from this coming Friday. If you could get down there, we definitely appreciate it. We'll be serving it up at the North End Charities there on Stewart Street. It's part of the Catholic Charities program, and you know, hey, we could use your help. So if you guys could come help us serve on that Friday afternoon, we greatly appreciate it. You can meet us at the club or directly at the soup kitchen. You will get fed for doing so, and get a great feeling in your heart. All right, that's what counts. All right, But no, seriously, join us if you can. Next thing coming up that we do have an opportunity to show the community that we care is the Adopt a Highway. That is coming up this weekend. It is Saturday the 23rd. We'll be cleaning up M13. It's the last and final cleanup of M13 this year. We've already done it twice this year, so it should be a fairly leisurely stroll along M13, and hopefully it'll be nice weather for us. It's looking pretty good right now. It looks like it's going to be sunshine, but hey, it's usually the easiest, nicest, best cleanup to do, so hopefully we can have a big turnout. You guys could really use your help. It'd be nice to get everybody out there that we possibly can on M13. We're going to start the cleanup at 10 a.m. You can meet us right out there on M13 if that's easiest for you to do. You can meet us at the club earlier at 9 a.m. if you want to cruise out there together and do the carpool thing. That's perfectly fine. I know we got people coming from all over Michigan to help us out. We're between Beecher and I believe Potter roads. So, but it's right on M13, just north of Lennon. There it is, the divider between Shiawassee and Genesee County. So come on out if you can help us out. We really appreciate it. That is this Saturday, the 23rd. Again, we start bright and early, 10 a.m. And we'll go out and clean it. We're usually back to the club by noon, 12:30, 1 o'clock. We feed you very well, and then you can go enjoy the rest of your weekend. So come on out and help us out if you can. It'll be good times. All right. I just want to say before we get going here too far into the show today that, you know, Michigan is a good place to live. All right. Today, if you're reading the news, if you're keeping up with everything, and it just had a humongous earthquake in Mexico City. A couple hundred people died. And today also, we have a huge hurricane in Puerto Rico after it just got hit. So, you know, I know that we don't get a whole lot of natural disasters here in this beautiful state, and that's definitely a reason to be thankful for living here. I know we have other man-made issues, but doesn't everyone? So just thank God, thank whoever it is that you think, you know, or just be happy that you're not dealing with that kind of stress and trauma in your life. All right. Of
course, you get up in the morning in the middle of the winter and you go outside and your face stings because it hurts so cold. But you know, let's face it, that's nothing to pay. You just go back to your car or to your house and you're done with that. I mean, let's face it. It's
a lot of folks in Puerto Rico, you know, like they're getting hit today, right now, 150 mile an hour winds. It's going to keep on going for a while. And a lot of these folks, you know, they didn't have power for an entire week when Irma came through. So they just got the stuff back up and running, and now it's all going back downhill again. So
it begs the question, why don't we start putting this stuff underground so it's a little bit harder to get to, you know, for our winds? I don't understand that.
In extreme situations like this, where you got a Category 5 hurricane, I mean, no matter what we do as humans, there's only so much you can do. And, you know, obviously, you know, there might be better, more advanced ways of doing things. I know that Puerto Rico just filed for bankruptcy or a form of bankruptcy a couple months ago, and that you know, economic, financial issues seem to be the norm for municipalities and governments all over the world. This is nothing new, but the point is, don't want to get off track here. Be thankful for what you got, and you know, be thankful that you've got a roof, electricity, warmth, and you're not standing in water. All right, let's move on here. We got a lot of stuff to cover, talking about medical marijuana. I know that a lot of folks have been really interested to hear what's going on with the club, what's going on with Michigan, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So tune in, sit down, let's get it on, all right? Basically, about a week ago, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Board met again. I believe this is their third public meeting. They met out at Hawk Hollow Golf Course in Bath, Michigan. Nice little posh place for them to be chilling at. And they didn't do a whole heck of a lot. But what they did state at the end of the meeting clearly is that basically if these places want to get a license or want to apply for the new medical marijuana program here in Michigan, i.e. being a distributor, you know, / dispensary, being a tester, being a transporter, being a grow facility, whatever it is you hope to be, if you want to apply, then you need to shut down whatever it is you're doing by December 15th in order to apply. And that's basically the nutshell of what the state served up. So obviously a lot of folks are out there up in arms. They're wondering what's going to happen to their source of medical marijuana, as they're used to going to the local dispensary to get their medication. Maybe that's where their caregiver goes, whatever the situation may be. But at the interim, obviously there's going to be a gap in service if that is what is going to happen. You know, the concern here is, there's a lot of concerns. I mean, I kind of feel like, where do we begin? You know, if the state is going to issue a mandate like this and stick to it, Obviously they don't want the same businesses just closing and reopening back up. If you look at the new law, the way that it's written, the entities that will be licensed by the state come this winter are not going to be anything like what the current entities are. Okay, so if you have a dispensary right now, your dispensary cannot operate in any way like it has been operating if it hopes to get a license for the new program. So nothing of that business nature, how it's structured, how it operates on a day-to-day function will resemble its new form once it's been relicensed by the state. So needing to shut down, if you plan on getting a new license, that is actually a necessity because they will not even be anywhere near close to the same thing. Currently right now, dispensaries are operating with licensed patients and licensed caregivers. When you go to the new program, there won't be any licensed caregivers. So obviously the source of the medication is going to change. Along with the nature of it, how it's being processed, everything else, it's all going to be new. So for these places to have to shut down, to me that seems like an obvious thing. If the dispensary route is what you've always wanted to have, or that's what your game is, then that's what you need to do, is go that route, be all you can be, and more power to you. All right. The thing about it is that there's 25,000 caregivers right now in the state who have no interest in becoming a commercial entity and don't have the ability or means to do so either. So you have that block of people right there. You also have a block of about 150,000 patients right now that are using medical marijuana on a daily basis right now. Okay, those folks are going to run into a jam when it comes to December 15th shutdown time. Okay, yeah, now the state is accepting applications, but even if the application was approved the next day, which is not going to happen, but let's say that it did, the new business that would now be licensed is not going to just be open the next day. It's going to take months and months and months to be rebuilt, reestablished, resupplied from its new licensed supplier, and to be able to have the infrastructure to supply the material through that new entity is going to take a lot of time, probably anywhere from 9 to 12 months on a minimum. You might see somebody up and running sooner than that, but I doubt it. If they're doing things legally, if they're using the new seed to sale tracking method, if they're waiting until they're licensed like they're supposed to, it is very likely that these new businesses, these new licensed distribution centers will not have product on the shelf for potentially up to a year. I mean, that's how long marijuana takes to grow, harvest, be processed, and be available. Is typically 6 to 9 months. So if you've got a 3-month downtime for licensing and lag and paperwork and bureaucracy, obviously there's going to be time after that to get growing and so forth. But we're looking at a significant gap here. You're talking about 150,000 patients that are using medicine right now. You cannot expect them to just go without medication for the next 9 to 12 months. It's preposterous. You wouldn't do that to any other patient with their medication. It would be unthinkable, and that's what the state is kind of proposing here. So it's kind of preposterous. Number one, because the current businesses cannot be the new businesses. There can be no connection, and there will be no similarities between them either. Yes, it will be a place where people can go get medication, and that will be the only similarity. Okay, so there's a big difference here between the two types of operations. And I think you're going to see that some of these current operating dispensaries will continue to operate because they have no interest in becoming this new commercial entity. They want to continue working with their current patients, and they want to continue working with their current caregivers. There's going to be other places out there that you're going to hear about, the one-offs and so on. The Genesee County Compassion Club has been different from the start. We have never been a dispensary. We are never going to be a dispensary, and we have no interest in the new state's programs. We are a simple place that provides a safe place for patients and caregivers to get together. It is that simple. We allow these people to come in and to facilitate the actions of the law that is provided to them. It is a very simple method. We've started that way, and we're going to continue that way. So if you're wondering what's going to happen with the G3C, then there's no change. There's been no change for the Michigan patient and caregiver law, and so we see no reason for us to change our method of business and what we do either. The bottom line is that people need medication, and we have a law that works. We're going to continue operating and facilitating within the guidelines of that law. So It's not that I have a negative opinion of these new places that are to be licensed. I think those are inevitable, and I think if you've been listening to me for the past 8 years, you'd know that I've been saying that. The natural progression of this industry is something that is going to happen on a professional, commercial level, and that's something that I think everybody knows. It's going to happen. It's not there yet. In the meantime, there will still be artisan craft people who do specialty things, who do high quality things, a caliber that can't be met at a commercial level. And we've seen this in other industries as well. Cannabis will be no different either. So I think the important thing is that for caregivers that plan on sticking, with this, they're not planning on changing, they want to continue on with what they have, you need to make sure your ducks are in a row. And of course, I'm not just talking about being compliant. Of course, you need to have the right amount of cannabis, stay within your limits, make sure your plant counts are right. Those are the basics. But what I'm talking about is you need to make sure that you're set up with your tax accountant. You need to make sure that you have your business set up properly, that you're paying taxes. So that way when the IRS comes, or when the township comes along and says, you're not even a real, well, yes, I am real. Here I am. And then you can show them the paperwork, you can show them the proof, and you can show them that you are legitimate, that you are professional, that you are doing things the right way. Other things that you might want to be concerned about. If you're growing, in your home, or maybe you're in a facility that you've created with friends, whatever, make sure it's up to code. Very simply, you're from your electrical use to your water drainage to your trash, you're taking care of that, all of those things. Make sure it's on the up and up. Make sure it's on a professional level, something that you could be proud of, something that doesn't need a license but could very well be licensed if it had to be. These are the things that you need to be concerned with to ensure that you are running a professional business, and to ensure your longevity as well. There was a bill that was introduced by one of our legislators, and I thought this was kind of interesting. The state's rep name is Yusuf Rabi. He is from Ann Arbor, and he introduced a bill to prevent existing medical marijuana dispensaries from being shut down by licensing delays. And I commend the, I commend the effort from Mr. Rabi of introducing this bill. However, I don't think it does anything to clarify the differences between the old businesses and the new ones. They cannot operate the same. It is fundamentally different. So it is nice that he, is looking out for patients, and you can see that if you read through the bill, that is his concern, is that the patients aren't going to be left without their medication. But allowing a business to continue to operate while it gets a license to operate differently seems to be contradictory to ensuring its compliance. So I don't know if this bill will even gain any traction. It seems a bit preposterous to me, just from the layman's level. I would think that, obviously on the state level, they'll probably tear it apart. But at any rate, Yusuf Rabi, and he planned to introduce the bill. It has been drafted. And, it just shows that there is a concern here for the patients at the state level to make sure that they do have uninterrupted access to their medication, which I think is important. If you looked at the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board, there have been a couple protagonists on the board that really just don't care about patients. And it is clear from their rhetoric and from their actions that they don't have that in mind, that it is not part of their makeup. They're really concerned with the compliance, they're concerned with the revenue generation, and that seems to be it. When we have a strong presence at the state level, whether it be phone calls to LARA, phone calls to your legislature, showing up at the meetings, emails, all of these things have these contacts, these have impact on our state. And you can see that occurred at the last Medical Marijuana Licensing Board meeting, where they were about to take a vote to say, hey, look, you guys are all going to shut down by such and such a date, blah, 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 blah. They didn't have the support there in their own board to even take the vote, let alone get it passed. And they knew that, and that's why they didn't bother actually taking a vote. They did kind of cop out, and then they sort of issued their own statement at the end and said, look, if you're going to apply for the new program, then you have to be shut down by December 15th, which is when we will start accepting applications. So I don't think it's outlandish for them to say that. They didn't say everybody has to go shut down. They did not say that, they discontinued the rhetoric that everybody's illegal. So that's good, because that's not the case. And they're segmenting out their policies for those people that want to go to the new program, which is what needs to be done, because it is, in fact, two separate programs. You've got the one that was passed by the people in 2008 and the one that our legislature did this last year. So I think that we need to have a separation of the two, and we need to, as patients and caregivers and as citizens, I think that, you know, there's going to be a little bit of back and forth between the two, but really, if we're true supporters of cannabis, then we need to support all of these businesses and entities and really try to aim, or try to, I guess, acquire a level of fairness for everyone. And making everybody shut down and then give them all an equal start date, that's not the kind of fairness I'm talking about. But at any rate, I think that we can have both of these programs coexist, and I think there's a place for both of these in the patient's world as well. Okay? So that's basically where we're at with the new program. There have not been any other changes. They did issue out a couple different guidelines, but as far as the Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Board, they really didn't have anything concrete. They really didn't say a whole lot. They just took some more public beating on the head, essentially, during their meeting. You can see all kinds of clips of it from on YouTube. Check it out. They had it aired in the club, I believe, as well. And you know, from the, I think, what is that, C-SPAN, the state's government website, you can actually watch these guys do their work. But at any rate, that's what happened at the meeting. They will have another meeting in October, and I'll be reporting to you on any other current updates, changes, you know, whatever it may be. I do think that they rolled out different levels of, for a few, I think it was growing class A, which is 1,500 plants, if I'm not mistaken. I think they set the level of the fee for that. And I think they also did the same thing for class B, but I did not see one for class C. I may be mistaken. But at any rate, it looks like they're starting to set up the parameters for what their fees are going to be. And again, you know, I think it goes to show what they're really concerned with is revenue generation here, not necessarily the business itself. But that remains to be seen.
What would be the advantage, actually, of having a dispensary over the way you have the Compassion Club set up? I'm just seeing that with a dispensary, you pretty much have to be stuck with offering maybe only a couple of varieties, a couple of strains, whereas what you do, you have different caregivers, and they can provide a variety of strains. So, well, I mean, and just look at the economic thing of trying to start up a dispensary plus the separate quarters or areas to grow these different strains.
First of all, John, the new dispensaries that will be getting licensed here in December of next year, these places will not be getting their cannabis from caregivers. They cannot get their medicine from caregivers. They're going to have to get it from a secured transport company who will be getting it from a licensed growing facility, and that's what I was just referring to with the different growing class licenses that will be issued. So there's nothing that says those dispensaries have to get it from their own growing facility. So these dispensaries could be potentially getting medical marijuana product from multiple different growing facilities. That could potentially be the case. If you look out in Colorado, there is a requirement for how much they have to produce for themselves. I think it's a 70%. So 70% of the meds that go out the door have to be produced by themselves, So 30% could be purchased from other growers and brought into the dispensary for distribution. There's no requirement like that I've seen yet for our dispensaries. So potentially these new dispensaries will be able to get product from multiple different growing facilities, and then they will potentially be able to sell that to anyone that has a medical marijuana patient card. Okay, and that's where the customer base is going to come from. So that's kind of how that's set up. Obviously, there's inherent risk in any business, but I think if you start to look at the breakdown here, you might see that the risk might not be worth the reward at this point. Granted, if the law changes and it's legal and now everybody over 18 or 21 can smoke and consume cannabis, and these places can now be the distributor for that, the game will change, obviously. Then it's going to be a different market. However, right now, it might be slim pickings. We'll have yet to see. So, getting into the licensing, let's talk about that a little bit, okay? Because there's already been a couple different townships that have stepped up and said, hey, you know what? We know the state's not issuing licenses yet, but we are, and we'll take your applications, we'll take your application fees, and let's get the ball rolling. So one of those is Bangor Township, which is basically Bay City. Another one is Pinconning, which I think most of us who know about Pinconning know that there's a lot of friendly people up in Pinconning. And it turns out their board is very friendly. So let me pull this up for you, because this was, I thought, incredibly interesting. Now granted, the state has not issued out the guidelines for this yet, so these townships and communities could potentially be jumping the gun in a sense of licensing something that they don't know how to license yet. But, you know, they could be generally able to meet the guidelines. Obviously, this is a one-on-one situation. Let me pull this up for you. I thought this was the facts here. Bangor Township, I believe, already has 20 applications. Let me pull it, if I can find this. Doggone it. Pinconning also has quite a few as well. I apologize, bear with me. You know when you have something set on your tablet and then it just disappears? Yeah. Let's see if this is it here. No, that's not the one I was looking for. All right, well, basically the gist of the article that I was reading, it was from MLive, and it was talking about Bangor Township, and it was also talking about Pinconning. Both of these places have already accepted applications for medical marijuana production facilities, also distribution or dispensaries, and so on. Pinconning themselves have already collected, I think the number was $20,000 in application fees. Bangor Township has potentially collected up to $100,000 in application fees. So if that's pretty incredible. I mean, if you talk to some of our township officials around the area, you know, those kind of figures right there make a difference. They'll get excited about that. And apparently they are excited about that. So people are already getting the ball rolling here. And I think it's, like I said, they could be, you know, they could be jumping the gun, but that's for the township and those people that are involved to decide, you know, whether or not it's worth it, right? Here it is. I found it. Apologize. Bangor and Pinconning Township spent months to write and approve ordinances. This is from MLive. Both townships have already started accepting applications. $5,000 non-refundable application fees for growers, transporters, and provisioners. To date, Bangor has already collected 20 licenses and $100,000. Pinconning Township, this is even more. 80 licenses have been collected. All 55 of its Class C licenses, which allows a grower to produce 1,500 plants. The 80 applications mean $400,000 in revenue for the Northern Bay County Township. During 3 public meetings Monday at Pinconning Township Hall, applicants discussed their potential investments, which officials estimate could be more than $100 million and create hundreds of jobs. So apparently up there in Pinconning, they're looking at cashing in. And if you've been through Pinconning lately, there's not a lot there. There's a couple cheese shops. It's a nice little town, don't get me wrong, but it's not that big. For them to license 80 different businesses for marijuana might be a little bit overboard. I doubt that all 80 will be approved. But in the meantime, there they are, collected $400,000 for their township. So you can bet that once other townships start to hear about this, they're going to be jumping on the bandwagon and, you know, hey, we'll be glad to take your applications. It doesn't mean you're going to get approved. So you might want to be careful about that. At any rate, I want to share that info with you. That's the newest, latest, most up-to-date stuff I've seen from different townships. There's other townships around the state that are looking at passing their own. There's other townships around the state that are taking applications. Marshall is another one. And I thought that was kind of interesting because if you know anything about the town of Marshall, they were incredibly protagonist towards caregivers and patients in their area. They did not allow any type of distribution centers at all. Very, very conservative area. And yet here they are turning right back around and being quick as can be. to approve these new facilities and take cash. They want money. So apparently, you know, morals don't mean a whole lot if you've got cash. In Marshall, I don't know. Whatever. I think it's just astounding how quickly people change their tune when you put money in front of their face. All right, moving on here. That's for Michigan. I don't want to get too negative here. But, all right, talk about other things here, okay? There was a bill that was introduced at the U.S. Senate level from Senator Orrin Hatch, another person who has a history of not exactly being the friend to the cannabis business. But Mr. Hatch instead is now coming around and has introduced a Meds Act bill, which basically this bill here, and pull this up for you. That was kind of interesting that Orrin Hatch was the one doing it, frankly. Basically, the Meds Act bill allows for further research into cannabis without having to restructure cannabis as far as rescheduling it on the drug schedule level. And it also allows NIDA, which is the program that provides marijuana through the government to its agents, it allows NIDA to basically provide the marijuana for testing or for research and so on. So kind of interesting. I'll get to the nuts and bolts here. It encourages more research on potential medical uses of marijuana by streamlining the research process without imposing a scheduling determination on the DEA. So that's step one. Step two, make marijuana more available for legitimate scientific and medical research and the commercial production of any FDA-approved drugs derived from marijuana. So it's kind of, if you look at what he's introducing here, he is skirt-tailing the scheduling by saying, look, let's just go ahead and pass a bill that lets them go ahead and do this in spite of the federal scheduling, which, I don't know, I mean, just reschedule it, doggone it, and you'd fix it all anyways. But at any rate, this is his bill. Step number three, retain important checks to protect against diversion or abuse of the controlled marijuana substance. Number four, require NIDA to develop and publish recommendations for good manufacturing practices for growing and producing marijuana for research. NIDA doesn't know how to grow good weed, so that'd be pretty tough for them to do that. That's just my own personal opinion. Step four, require the Attorney General to increase the national marijuana quota in a timely manner to meet the changing medical, scientific, and industrial needs for marijuana. Oh, I'm not sure what the national quota is that he's talking about from our Attorney General. But here we go. Step four, step five, codify the administration's decision to terminate the Public Health Service in its review of proposals for medical research on marijuana. And finally, prevent the Department of Health and Human Services from instituting any other marijuana-specific protocol reviews other than the voluntary review that a researcher can request from the National Institutes of Health, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, basically, Hatch has introduced this bill at the federal level. Who knows if it'll get traction. It already has sponsors, including Senator Brian Schatz, Chris Coons, Cory Gardner, and Thomas Tillis. None of these guys are from Michigan, so that's probably why you've never heard of their names before. But at any rate, he's got some sponsors on the bill. It does allow for research. It does allow for NIDA to step in there and actually provide some information. I think it's shortcomings. I think it's another, really, I mean, Orrin Hatch, like I said, he has not been a friend of medical marijuana or marijuana at all in the past. So for him to be introducing anything is contrary to his past performances. Okay, so I would take anything from that guy regarding marijuana a little bit tongue-in-cheek, you know, a little bit of grain of salt, if you will. And so here he is, oh yeah, let's go ahead and pass this bill to do this, that, and the other, when in reality what they need to do is reschedule marijuana. That's what needs to be done. All right, next item. Okay, Massachusetts. Massachusetts has medical marijuana. Massachusetts has recreational marijuana. Massachusetts also has a problem with buzzed driving they're trying to deal with. And this was an interesting story. A high court in Massachusetts ruled that the police officers do not have the ability to do field sobriety tests on people to determine whether or not they are driving while high. There's other things that they can use, but they cannot use the same test that is used for alcohol in their field sobriety test for performing that on someone to determine whether or not they are high. Furthermore, the court went on to say that the officers did not have the ability to determine whether or not someone was actually high, based on their training and so on. I think the court is pointing out some key things here that we need to have some retraining, if you will, when it comes to identifying people who are high behind the wheel. And I think it also points out the need for, not just for the training, but for the culture of dealing with people that are buzzed driving. You know, and obviously when people want to fight these things and go to court and so on, and now they want blood tests and nanograms and all this, that, and the other, you know, those are the extreme cases. I'm talking about the everyday cases. You know, what is the normal protocol for handling this to make sure that we don't have impaired drivers on the road, but also to make sure that we're not arresting the wrong people and trying to, you know, charge them with crimes that they're not guilty of. We don't want that either. So I know that this sort of muddies the water. If you look at this, it doesn't really help things out. But flipping over to a so-called testing machine as a solution is not the answer either. So I know I like to rant and rave about the whole driving thing, but you know, it's coming here in Michigan, and it's a farce. It's just a complete, utter, total farce. They do not have the right equipment to do a test. There is no saliva test that proves. It does not provide accuracy. It's wrong to use these things. And really, the companies that push this material down the throat of our legislators in the name of safety really are only doing so to watch their bottom line. That's it. They're looking to sell a product. And, you know, sometimes it's good, but in this case, it's not. It is a faulty product. And we do not need that kind of stuff here in Michigan. All right, moving on here. Canada. Those who've been paying attention, Canada has legalized marijuana for adult recreational use. It will be happening by 2018. This is kind of an offshoot story from that, but there's a university in Niagara, which isn't too far away, that is now offering an extended pot degree, if you will. It will take, in order to get into the class, you have to have an undergraduate degree in like chemistry or biology or, you know, farm management, something like that. So you can't just go take the pot degree. I know some of you probably would like to do that, but at any rate, I think it's pretty cool. This isn't your regular, you know, like we've had Oaksterdam come in before. I've taught for Oaksterdam before. Oaksterdam is a wonderful organization that provides a whole lot of material in education for people who are getting into this industry. But Oaksterdam is not an accredited university, and you do not get a degree per se when you finish with Oaksterdam's courses. This here is a real college university, the University of Niagara, or whatever it is that you call it, in Canada, that is offering a legitimate pot cultivation course to undergraduates. So that's the first of its kind, the first time I've ever heard of anything being offered like that. Obviously, they're ramping up and getting ready for the new industry that's coming to Canada and to the rest of the world. So that's pretty cool. Kudos to Canada. Kudos to the college in Niagara for having the guts to put a program like this together. I think that's pretty awesome. All right. Another story I want to share with you guys, and this is kind of hitting close to home. We have talked about this a little bit on the show before, and what I'm referring to is CBD legislation. We have a few different states around the country that have not yet legalized medical marijuana, but yet they have gone through and legalized CBD use. So this brings up some real confusing questions for law enforcement and the like on, you know, what products are okay and what products are not okay. And in Indiana, apparently, it's a mess. They've got a whole lot of different people out there that are pushing products that are not legal, and the police are going after them. Police are also, unfortunately, going after a whole lot of people that have legal products, and they don't know the difference. This is backfired on sometimes on the police. It's actually happened here in Michigan as well, when the police labs are not accurately testing the materials and determining accurate outcomes for those materials as well. You can bet that those things are happening in other states also. I know here in Michigan, when it comes to our crime labs, one of the things that they use to determine cannabis is the testing for the positivity of THC. Well, if we're talking about a CBD material, it shouldn't have THC in it. So how could we identify that as being an illegal substance if it doesn't have that marker there? Oops. Am I back?
Yo, you're still on air. Yeah.
Check.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
There. Sorry about that.
That was just your headphones. So that's,
yeah. But
you're still going up.
I was still talking. I just couldn't hear me.
Right
On. All right. So basically, that's where it's at with Indiana. Excuse me. Looking at my list here. The Indiana and the CBD mess. You can check this out on hightimes.com, or you can check it out on was it Leafly? But that's just poor legislation that was bound to have a problem from the start, and here it is boiling out. With them, basically now you've got the same thing you've had happen here in Michigan, where you've got people going through the court system, being prosecuted, being charged as criminals, who have no business being there at all. They're trying to treat people who have epilepsy. They're trying to treat their kid who has seizures. They're using a CBD product. Hello, folks. If you have any understanding at all, then you know that a CBD product provides absolutely no psychoactive high whatsoever. We're talking about a completely benign substance. There should be no controversy over it at all. The only controversy is that people don't understand what it is that we're even talking about. And Indiana went ahead and passed laws before they even knew what they were doing. So you got to keep an eye on these guys. All right, one more state I wanted to talk about. I thought this was interesting. Arkansas. Arkansas passed medical marijuana here a little while ago, and now they're taking applications for producers, dispensaries, so on and so forth. Basically, they're saying that they are only going to license 5 places for the entire state. So here we got another one of these monopoly marketing schemes where they get their lobbyists to go in and say, oh yeah, we need this, but we got to have tight controls on it, so we'll just do it this way. All right, it's a bunch of crap. But at any rate, that's what they decided to do. The interesting thing I wanted to point out to you, if I can find my notes here, is that folks down in Arkansas wanted to get going, and they received, I think it was like 800 applications for basically what they're going to do is approve 5. Absolutely unbelievable. And the state's overwhelmed, of course, and they said that the average length of these applications is 1,000 pages. I mean, unbelievable. Obviously they're asking for a whole heck of a lot of information to complete the application, and these people are taking it very seriously. You don't have a 1,000-page application just on a whim. But this is the problem when government gets involved and regulates businesses in the name of safety, but really it's in the name of monopoly. And then that's what's happening. So we need to ensure that that doesn't occur here in Michigan. All those people out there that are interested in getting these new licenses, like I said, more power to you. What we have to make sure is that what's happening in states like Arkansas or Ohio does not happen here in Michigan. And I think if we continue to press, continue to make our voices heard, and we can ensure that that does not occur. So, all right. Thanks for joining me this week on the Genesee County Compassion Show podcast. It's good to be back in here in the studio. I want to get back outside before the warm weather's gone. I'd encourage you to do the same thing. It's getting to be that season. I know that I've seen some plants outside that look like they're starting to get into flower. That's always exciting. This time of year, you do have to watch out for things like mildew and mold and stuff like that. With the increased humidity and so forth. So make sure you're out there checking your plants. Give them a foliar spray if you need to. But at any rate, get down to the Compassion Club. We got some tasty food down there. Got some new products over at the Holistic Center. I got a new make your own lotion bar. I just checked that out today for myself. I thought that was pretty cool. There's like 25 different scents you can put in there. Make your own. It's pretty nice stuff. Got some new food items and a whole lot of other good stuff as well. So get down to the G if you haven't lately. All right. Thanks for joining me this week on the podcast. I definitely appreciate it. You guys take care, stay safe, and catch me here next week on the Genesee County Compassion Club show. Make sure you check out All Points TV for all their other podcasts as well. Thanks for being in the studio with me, John. I appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful week.